Hello, this is Richard White and welcome to this mini course on selling consultatively. Many people struggle with consultative selling despite lots and lots of training, reading loads of books, because they haven't developed the fundamental mindset. Yet, once you get the mindset, it's all incredibly easy, and it's just a matter of practice and developing your skill. So if you have already done lots of training, please keep an open mind, because what I'm going to cover will add to what you've already done. It won't replace it. It will make it all much more effective. And if you're brand new to consultative selling, then the great news is that everything will come so much faster for you when you have the right mindset. Before we begin, it's worth putting consultative selling into context and to see where it fits in within the sales cycle. A typical sales cycle will have several stages, the first being to generate interest, which will come from some form of marketing activity, including telemarketing, referrals, your website and so on. Then you'll qualify the interest. Then you'll have some sort of meeting or discussion, followed by presenting your solution, which will mainly be some sort of proposal or presentation. Then there's normally a process of negotiation and overcoming objections, and then finally closing the sale. So what we're talking about with consultative selling is how you handle the meeting or discussion stage in the sales process. The other parts of the sales process will still stay the same. There's two fundamental philosophies in selling. There's push selling and there's pull selling. Push selling is where you decide what the customer wants and then you persuade them to buy it. Pull selling is where you find out what the customer wants to buy and you sell it to them. Push selling is what most people think selling is all about when they first get into sales, because that's their experience of most salespeople. Sometimes the push is very subtle, but the key difference is that with pull selling you're facilitating the person's buying decision as opposed to seeking to sell them something that they may or may not want. In push selling, all your focus is on your product or service. With pull selling, it's on the buyer and their wants and needs. With push selling, the seller does most of the talking. With pull selling, the buyer does most of the talking. Let's just contrast push selling with selling consultatively. So you go into an electrical store to buy a new TV, and you ask the assistant for some help. Now, if you encounter a push salesperson and tell them that you're looking for a new TV, then they'll probably rave on about one or two models and how brilliant they are and how they want special offer and how everybody's buying them these days. And there's only a few left, so you better not wait too long. You point out to the salesperson that actually the TV's too big. And so he just starts raving on about a slightly smaller TV. If you bothered to ask like a consultative salesperson would, you would quickly find out that you've just bought a brand new cabinet and it's got a specific size that you're looking for. And also you have a fairly limited budget and you want a particular colour as well, and that you're mainly going to be watching DVDs on it. A consultative salesperson would have taken the time to find out all these details before making a recommendation, and may have even got to sell you a DVD player if you found out that you didn't actually have one yet. I'm sure in the first example you would feel like you're being sold to, whereas with the consultative salesperson you'll just feel like they're being helpful. There's a large number of reasons why it's worth selling more consultatively, not least because people don't tend to trust pushy salespeople. And so without trust, it'll be harder to grow the account once you've won it in the first place. Secondly, consultative selling is more professional, especially where there's complexity or a lot of choice. If you decide what the customer wants and then manage to sell it to them, you could end up selling them the wrong solution, which causes problems further down the line. If you take a consultative approach, then often you'll end up selling more, as you'll start to consider things that previously weren't even thought about. And clients and prospects actually enjoy going through the consultative sales process, because you get them to think through their issues. And if you're not overly keen on selling, then you'll be pleased to hear that it's actually easier to do consultative selling than it is to do push selling. If we want to help people make better buying decisions, then we really need to understand what's motivating the buying behaviour. In almost all cases, the buyer is looking to solve a problem. If you look at the TV example that we had earlier on, the problem was not that they wanted a TV, the problem was that their existing TV didn't fit into their cabinet and was also the wrong colour for their new colour scheme. So the first thing to learn about consultative selling is to find out what's motivated them to express an interest, especially if they sound like they know exactly what they want. I've heard of many cases where salespeople just asking that simple question have turned very small orders into very large orders. The gap analysis is a tool used by consultants and coaches in order to identify where a client wants to be compared to where they are now. And in selling business services, it normally boils down to a profitability gap. They either want to increase revenue or reduce cost, or avoid a future cost. Let's use sales training as an example, and a particular company is worried about losing their top salespeople because they're not doing enough sales training. If this was a primary motivator, then their eye would be on the future costs of having to recruit more salespeople, and the impact on the business if any of their top salespeople left. So in terms of a gap analysis, the desired outcome is increased revenue and the salespeople continuing to work for the firm. The current situation is that without doing something, the salespeople will leave and the profits will decline. So the gap is the difference between the increased sales as a result of the training and costs and opportunity costs if the salespeople were to leave. In fact, the opportunity cost in this case may be so high that the increased revenues will just be a bonus for them. So a key task of consultative selling is to establish the gap, not only in our own minds but also in the prospect's mind too. The bigger the gap, the easier it will be for them to justify resolving the problem. At this stage of the process, what we're really looking to do is to fully understand where the customer wants to get to, where they are now, what's motivating them to want to do something about it. I'm going to use an example of a company looking to get more business from their website. They've had a website for a number of years, but it hasn't really produced much in the way of leads. The business owner decides to put aside a couple of £1,000 in order to develop the website. And he thinks that the reason why he's not getting enough leads is that his website doesn't look good enough. In order to do the gap analysis, I'm going to introduce you to a new model called GRIN Selling. The G stands for goal. This is where the prospect wants to get to. The R stands for reality. This is their current situation. The I stands for implications. This is the implications of reaching their goal and also the implications of staying where they are. That will really identify what the gap is and the value of the gap. And then finally, N is the needs, and that will come out of the gap analysis. Just to quickly map the GRIN onto the gap analysis, the G is on the desired outcome line, the R is on the current situation line, and the implications is the gap between the two. And then the needs flow as a result of the implications. So how do you find all this out? Well, the key is to ask good questions. Sometime before the meeting you do some pre-call strategizing to work out how you're going to approach the sales meeting. Whilst you don't go in deciding what you are going to sell them, you need to go in trying to understand what they're looking to buy. What do you know so far and what do you need to find out? You'll probably have a look at their website to see if you can get any ideas on what they're doing right and wrong. And you'll consider what your ideal outcome is for this sales meeting and how you're going to approach it. So you start asking questions about the goal, and you soon find that all they're really looking for is new business from the website. And actually they don't care if it gets developed or not, as long as it generates more leads. And they'd like to be generating 3 new quality leads a week. And you find out through questioning that if they get 3 new leads a week, they'll get one piece of business worth £10,000 every week. So the goal is not actually to develop a website, it's to generate £40,000 worth of business a month from their website. And now your attention switches to the reality or the current situation, and you want to start finding out about what's currently going on. So you might ask, for example, how many hits they're getting to their website, and find out that actually they don't know. You do know that they're not getting any leads whatsoever from their website, but you don't know whether it's because people aren't finding the website or whether once they find the website they leave very quickly afterwards without placing an inquiry. With some further digging you find out that they're actually operating under capacity. £40,000 a month of extra business is going to make quite a big difference to them. They tell you that if they see some success from the website that they're prepared to put a lot more money into it, but at the moment it's just been a bit of a black hole. Turning now to implications, we want to see what is going to be the implication of going ahead and what is the implication of doing nothing. We can see that an extra 3 leads a week is going to equate to £40,000 a month of extra business and is going to make a significant difference to their profitability. Some of the implications have already risen out of the questions that you asked when you were doing goal and reality, but you ask about the implications of doing nothing, and what you find out is that if things continue as they are for a lot longer, then they're going to have to start laying off some people. You know the stakes are high, and they're probably going to be prepared to invest a bit more than £2,000 if necessary, although they haven't indicated this yet. Now let's look at needs. Up to now you've been asking the questions and the prospect's been doing most of the talking. You've been taking notes, listening, asking some extra questions and really looking to understand the current situation and where they want to get to. When it comes to identifying the needs, then in a lot of cases you're going to need to give some input as well. You may want to see whether they'll be open to different ways of approaching the situation. Rather than totally redoing their website, doing some diagnostics on finding out why it's not getting any leads, and then using the money to either drive more traffic to the site, or maybe improve the copywriting on the site or the navigation, or making some changes that are not significant but enough to start showing that it can generate more leads. Obviously, if after all that all they want is a new website, then it's up to you to decide whether or not you're going to do it. Unless they're prepared to invest in diagnosing the problem, then there's no reason why the new website won't be just the same as the old one. This has been just a really short example, but I hope you can see that when you start to delve into the detail and you help the prospect to think the issue through, then you'll come up with a much better solution for what they really want, as opposed to what they initially asked for. Now that the prospect has verbalized the real underlying problem, the chances are that they're going to go ahead and maybe spend a lot more money with you than they would have done. You now should have enough information to go away and do a good proposal. This is a mini course on selling consultatively and not on questioning skill. Having said that, questions are very important for consultative selling. And I'd just like to say a few words on open and closed questions. Good open questions are the key to getting good quality information. By open, I mean that there's no predefined answer. What happens with open questions is that you get back a lot of information. For example, what motivated you to contact us? What are you looking to get out of this investment? Who else are you currently talking to? Why is this project important to you? These are all open questions. A closed question is when you're in control of the answer. This normally means a question that results in yes or no. So for example, you may want to clarify your understanding and then ask if it's correct. And then they'll either say yes or no. It's good practice to ask clarifying questions during the sales meeting, and these will always be yes or no answers. So closed questions often begin with is. Open questions begin with who, what, where, why, when, and how. It's good to pay attention to your language and what you're saying, because some people habitually use closed questions when they want information, and the quality of the answers are not as good as if they asked open questions. One of the benefits of the pre-meeting planning session is to think through the key questions that you're going to be asking within the meeting. This has been an introduction to consultative selling, and what I wanted to do was to get across the key concepts. The thing that really makes it work is questions. You need to ask the necessary questions to find the difference between where they want to be and where they are now. The implications of getting there and the implications of not doing anything, and then helping them to find their needs. You then go on to do a proposal or presentation and close the sale. If there's one piece of advice I can give you, and that is to suspend judgment during the sales meeting. If you've already decided what they want to buy before you go into the sales meeting, then you won't get such a good result. In terms of what next, my recommendation is that you get lots of practice and that you get the help of your manager or coach before you go into the meeting to do some pre-call strategizing. If you get the opportunity, then you may want to take your coach or manager along to a meeting with you and give you feedback. Whatever happens, you really ought to spend time planning your meetings before you go in there to know what questions you're going to ask. Good luck with selling consultatively. My name is Richard White, and I hope to see you soon.